So I actually wanted to talk about something that's rather challenging, and it sort of makes me fluttery inside, and I have that sort of nervous feeling that you get when you talk about something that is challenging. And it's really about life choices that we make and the things where we choose one particular thing over another and we sort of regret, or not necessarily regret, but we think about what could it possibly have been if it was this particular way or another. So, if you don't know me, I'm Professor Dave Maslach. I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There are so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for to help you out. We all make these very challenging decisions where we choose one particular life trajectory over another, or one alternative over another. Whether it is we're going and choosing a career when we go to undergraduate programs, whether we are choosing a graduate program, whether we are choosing to marry somebody or not marry somebody. We often have these feelings of what could have been if the life would have been a different way. And the reason why I'm reflecting on this, we just sat down and watched Marley and Me last night. If you haven't watched this, it's a great movie about a dog, but there is an underlying theme about the choices we make in our life and the things that we end up with. So for me, I'm constantly sort of thinking about this and thinking about how life would be if I choose a different direction. Because I think it's important to sort of reflect on where you're going to go in this world and choosing the things that you're going to choose. And so for me, there is this sort of the movie resonated with me a lot when you're sort of making this decision about choosing a career versus having a family and doing things in which you prioritize your family over the career. So there's a moment where the main character, who's Owen Wilson, meets up with Sebastian, who is his friend, and Sebastian chose the career path. And in that moment, you could see that there's a sort of awkward pause where Owen Wilson, who's the main character, chose the family path. And he was sort of reflecting on what he has done. And I think we all sort of face these choices that we make. It is not easy to choose anything, and no way and no path that we choose is perfectly correct and perfectly not correct in any sort of way, because it is just the path that you choose within the life that you actually have. There's no way that you can sort of reverse that path. There's no way that you can have maybe chose differently, and maybe if you chose differently, things would have been different, but you never know what that would have been like. And so we all face these sort of moments in life where we think about, what if we would have prioritized having a bigger family? What if we prioritized marrying somebody else? What if we prioritized having a different career? There was moments where I would have thought that I would have done this and I chose this instead. And we think about those and we think that it would have been in a different way. And often we think about those in sort of rosier terms, but I don't think that that is necessarily true. And I think about my own life that I have right now, and I don't think I would have chose a lot differently, because it has been a whirlwind and it's been fun. But there's things that are really sort of challenging that you face with it. So nothing that you choose is ever going to be easy, and it's never going to be the thing that you ever thought that it was going to be. So if you're making a career choice at this moment, if you're making a family choice, I know some of you might be thinking about having kids or not having kids. I've got two wonderful boys and beautiful wife, but what I want you to know is that the thing that you choose, whatever that looks like for you, it's never going to be perfect, and it's never going to be the thing that you actually imagined it to be. Often, however, it is more richer and deeper, and you get a more greater sense of meaning from the thing that you chose compared to sort of this imaginary view that you're thinking about. And so there is a lot more nuances and stories and sort of beautiful aspects to the thing that you chose that you couldn't possibly anticipate and understand. So there's these sort of underlying stories that we all have, these sort of narrative paths that we all have that are just really exciting sometimes, and sometimes they're very sort of crushing, and you can't anticipate those actually happening. You can't sort of think that this is the sort of perfect view that you would have had. And some of us sort of have this sort of imaginary perfect view of what we would have had. We have, maybe it's a list. So, Marley and me, one of the main characters has a list of how life is actually supposed to turn out. And yes, you can check all those different boxes on that list of what it actually looks like for you and what you actually want. But often you really don't know what's going to happen. And it is this uncertainty of how this actually turns out that is really remarkable and interesting and fun, that is actually a blessing that we all have. I would have never known 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that I would have been doing these YouTube videos and actually having a conversation with you. Whether anybody is actually watching them and resonating and sort of following along, I don't know. But that's besides the point. The point is that I'm actually doing this, and this has become part of my life. And I would never have guessed that. I'm inherently a very shy person, and talking in front of people is a challenge. It's always been a challenge for me, and so we all don't know what's going to happen to us, and we have to sort of embrace the sort of beautiful nature of what happens to you in the career trajectories and the life trajectories that you actually get. And some of these things are really interesting in what happens, but we have to know that the choice that we chose is a blessing, in the sense that it gives you greater depth of character and gives you more to who you are as an individual than could have possibly have happened. So we're all going to face things like death. We're all going to face things that are very traumatic in our life, but those things are as much as part of life as life is, in the sort of celebration of life is. And so we have to know that these things give us depth. They build something in us. I don't know if it's character, but it builds something in us that we can accomplish things, that we could do things even when things are challenging and difficult. But it is the things that really builds us as an individual and as people. So when you're making these career choices and you're making these life choices, know that there is not a sort of perfect way. We can check all of the boxes. We can sort of go along and sort of view how things are going to be. But the thing that you end up with is often far richer and far complicated, far messier, far remarkable than you'd ever imagine it would be. And if you get anything from this video, if you get anything from following along, know that this is as much of a journey and as much of a challenge and as much of a process for me as it is for you. And so I feel like I am really growing as a person. And I hopefully you are growing as a person too by following along. So with that, give me a thumbs up. do subscribe to the YouTube channel. I do appreciate it. Take care and have a wonderful day.